Hey guys, this is going to be a really quick video. I just want to show you this Civil War belt buckle that I just sold. I wish I had more time to make an in-depth video on it, but I wanted to show it before I ship it off. Now, this Civil War belt buckle is model 1839, and these were produced between 1839 and 1851, and they were used between 1839 and even until the Civil War. When the Civil War really took off, the letters, this was from New York, so this was state of New York. These changed from state of New York. There was also South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Alabama and Georgia had some real ornate kind of designed ones. There was a lot of different manufacturers. But when the Civil War started, the Union just became the U.S. So any of the northern states that had belt buckles like this, like state of New York or any other state, just really became U.S. to stand for, United States, of course. But the Confederate soldiers would wear CSA or CS belt buckles because that was the Confederate States or the Confederate States of the United States. Well, Confederate States of America, I should say, not United. But this one you can see has a lot of dings. And I originally thought that that was from combat, and some of them might be from combat. But I'll pull up a picture and I'll show you exactly where these were placed. These are placed right beside the dagger and kind of along where your belly button is. So as you can tell, this is the front, and the front is made of brass, and it was pressed by a machine, and the machine was probably powered by steam or by gas. There wasn't really a lot of electricity back then. I don't think electricity really became a thing until the late 1800s, like 1880s. But the reverse, well, I'm used to coins, but the backside, the inside of it is filled with lead. So I guess they would press this with a machine and then fill the back with lead. So you can see it's kind of just poured in there. You can see how through where it's kind of chipped off. And these had what was called a puppy pad design on the inside. So these two parts, one of them fell off, but there's two little divots or notches that would go into one side of the leather belt, and this claw that would go into the other side of the belt. And you can see this one has an inscription, 44V. I'm not even sure what that means. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people watching this video that knows more about the Civil War belt buckles and some more of the Civil War just militaria. And I would be happy if y'all commented and gave me and the other people watching this video a little bit more info about this. But I got this at a shop, and I've had it for a while, and now it's going to a new home. And just, I guess out of coincidence, the same day this sold, I was getting into this book, and I'll show you a couple parts of this book, because this book I found actually at a Goodwill. I'm always looking for older books. This one you can see is from an ROTC, and this book is from 1964. I like the older books because it seems like politics and history and a lot of education and academia changed around 1979, around the same time that the Board of Education took control of education. So I like to find books pre-79, and you see there's more detail and honestly the vocabulary and the way that everything is just discussed and laid out is just more just better than anything you can get today. Today, a lot of people use some weird words, some big words that sound fancy, but back then it was just elegant. And the further you go back, the more elegant it gets. I've seen some school books pre-1910 that just blew my mind. It was like college level prep in elementary school. It just blows my mind how the school system has just went downhill, especially in the last 40, 45 years. But I'll show you a little bit of this book and I'll stop ranting. But I just wanted to make a quick video to show you this before it's gone. And I had a dagger. I had a Civil War dagger that was actually, the tip was broken or modified into like a knife. But I'll show you a couple of pictures of that. And that was really nice. I found it at the same store. So I had a Civil War belt buckle and a Civil War dagger. Excuse me. And I'll show you some pictures of that. Like I said, that was pretty cool, but that sold pretty quick. Let me get into the book a little bit. So this book is called Grant, Lee, Lincoln, and the Radicals, an essay on Civil War leadership. I'll put this book on eBay once I get finished reading it, but you could probably find the PDF version on one of the archive files. but you can see in here it says U.S. government property. That's pretty cool. I found like, and also it has the checkout card in here, and it doesn't look like it was ever used. I love finding these kind of books. It's way better than finding anything modern day. And I'm not going to read a lot. I'm just going to read a couple of parts that I highlighted because it's interesting to kind of get different perspectives on like what people thought or at least wrote about back then and current day. So I like to get kind of a view on all of them because things do change. So there are things that might have been updated. There are also some things that could have been changed or reworded for like a political reason or some other kind of reason. But I'll just read this first, the preface. There were more Civil War controversies than there were battles between 1861 and 1865. All of the major figures and events, and most of the minor ones, have been interpreted and reinterpreted, praised and damned. Some of the controversies were inconsequential. Others were so important that their resolution would necessitate the rewriting of a large part of American history. I just thought that part is pretty cool. That paragraph right there really describes. I mean, that's the purpose of a preface, but really describes the beginning of the book. And that's what I like to do. Whenever I get a book, I try to read the preface and a few of the chapters to kind of get an overall idea. It's kind of hard, especially when you do the kind of things I'm doing, like buying and reselling rare books, because they tend to sell pretty fast. So I like to get kind of like a glimpse and then read more into more into more. To me, it's always been hard to read a book from start to finish. I always kind of like to pick and choose and then kind of piece it all together. It's kind of like a movie. Sometimes it's best to watch the trailer before you watch a movie so you kind of know what's going on when you get to those points. And I bookmarked this right here. The American Civil War confronted the professional soldier with a vexing series of problems which went far beyond anything he could possibly have been expected to learn at West Point. And here's one on the generalship of Robert E. Lee. Machiavelli wrote that victory is the final test of skill in a war. If a general wins a battle, he said, it cancels all of the errors and miscarriages. Conversely, one may infer if a general loses a battle, it cancels out all the brilliance and daring. Most Civil War history is written in cliches. We still speak of the conflict as a war between North and South, though everybody knows that there was much pro-Confederate settlement in the Union. 4 Southern states never ceded, and even the Deep South had a resistance to Jefferson Davis's government. We write of a struggle between freedom and slavery, even though the Confederates were prepared to free their slaves before the North was ready to adopt the 13th Amendment. Military historians oppose the Clausewitzian theory of General Grant to the old-fashioned strategy of Robert E. Lee, although these two great generals were trained in the same school and shared virtually all the same ideas about warfare. In the political history of the Civil War, one of the most widely held of these stereotypes is the cliche that the most serious opponents of President Lincoln, so the story goes, were not the Democrats or even the Confederates, but the Jacobins, the member of their own party, aggressive, vindictive, and narrowly secular. And the last part I'll just show you real quick. The election of 1864 illustrates many things, among them the wonderful diversity of the American parties and the paradox that the Republicans could be at once divided by an abnormal issue and united by normal requirements of politics. So if you get into this book a little bit deeper, especially that chapter with David Donald, he talks about how there was a party, the Jacobins, in the French Revolution, and 60 years later, that same kind of mentality was spread throughout the Republicans in the North, the Union, and they kind of wanted to agitate the whole system to kind of overthrow the government. And France and Europe also helped the South. They wanted the South to cede because they wanted the cotton and the other kind of commodities that the South had that the North didn't. So it was sort of a worldwide kind of conflict, at least the Western world. So I hope you liked this video, and I hope I intrigued you a little bit, and I hope I at least did the job by kind of explaining a little bit of the Civil War and showing you the Civil War belt buckle. Thanks, like, subscribe if you haven't already, comment. I love to read all the comments. If you notice, I try to respond to every single one. Thanks.